this regular meeting of the Morris Plains Board of Adjustment on June 23rd, 2025. All please rise for pledge of allegiance. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I hereby announce this meeting is being held in accordance with Chapter 231 of the Open Public Meetings Act. Proper notice of meeting dates has been given to the Morris Newsby and the Morris County Daily Record and posted on the bulletin board in the Borough Hall. This meeting is a judicial proceeding. Any questions or comments must be limited to issues that are relevant to what the board may legally consider in reaching a decision, and decorum appropriate to a judicial hearing must be maintained at all times. Karen, roll call, please.
Okay. Mr. Baza?
Here.
Mrs. Cortez?
Here.
Mr. Ethan?
Here.
Mr. Moore? Mr. Carr?
Here.
Mr. McCabe?
Here.
Mr. Webster?
Present.
Mr. Schultz?
Here.
Mr. Razos?
Here.
And Mr. Ciancia?
Here. All right, special announcements. Today is Doug's birthday, and we were going to break in the song and give him a pointy hat, but he reminded me that decorum appropriate to a judicial hearing must be maintained at all times. Stay focused, so we won't sing. The next item on the agenda is approval of the meeting minutes from the last meeting. Are there any corrections? Well, I know there's some corrections. Let's hear the corrections, please. The meeting minutes of the May 19th, 2025 regular meeting.
Karen, I think that I arrived at 8:15, at 8:30, but I think it was 8:15.
Okay.
All right.
Any other corrections? If there are none, would there be a motion to approve the meeting minutes as amended?
Motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Nays? Abstentions?
Abstain.
Abstain. All right, this part of the meeting is to hear comments from members of the public on matters other than those items on tonight's agenda. Are there any members of the public who wish to make comments? I see some shaking heads, so for the record, we'll close. I see none for the record. We'll close that part of the meeting. The first application for this evening's meeting is application BA1-25, Joan Miller Kichury is executrix of the estate of Grace Miller, 37 Hawthorne Avenue, Block 38, Lot 1.02. The application was approved at the May meeting, and tonight we have a resolution memorializing the approval. Board of Adjustment Resolution number 25-07, describing pertinent application and testimony information, findings of the board, and conditions of approval, has been prepared for the board's review. Are there any suggestions or questions on the resolution, including the conditions contained therein?
Only question, Chairman, is the now therefore be it resolved, the day of the month is blank. Is that something you typically handwrite in, or should that be there?
No, I can put that in. 23rd,
Oh. This page.
okay?
We will insert 23rd prior to signature.
Good catch, Mike.
All right. Is there a motion to approve with the insertion of the date?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Karen, roll call, please.
That was Mr. Razos who seconded?
Doug
Mr.
McCabe.
McCabe. Birthday man.
Second that.
Okay, Mr. Baza?
Yes.
Mrs. Cortez? Abstain.
Abstain?
Mr. McCabe?
Yes.
Mr. Razos?
Yes.
And Mr. Ciancia?
Yes.
And those who were not called for the record were not present at the meeting and therefore ineligible to vote on the resolution. So the resolution is memorialized. Congratulations and best of luck.
Thank you very much.
Congratulations.
That is it for the cases tonight. Are there any bills or any correspondence?
No.
All right. Is there any new business? All right. For old business, I'd like to go over the revised application process. So Bill Ryden, Mike Garavaglia, chairman of the planning board, and Bill Houston, councilman, and I have been working on this for a few months. Brief history, we tried this, we, the Board of Adjustment, tried looking at this a couple of years ago, but it really takes the planning board and Board of Adjustment doing it jointly along with support of the governing body, because at the end of the day, ordinances have to change. I want to commend Bill Ryden on taking the first pass at this. What he did is he took a number of processes and applications from areas where he is the engineer, the municipality's engineer, and really distilled it down. So I think we're at 27 pages, something like that. We're down to 5-ish.
Correct.
Short to the point. Mike Sullivan has reviewed this. His comments were generally much better. 2, he feels strongly there should be a single application for both the planning board and the board of adjustment, and you just check the box. And 3, that all the potential types of variances should be listed out so that the boxes can be checked. So D1, D2, D3, et cetera, instead of just D. So I am very happy with this. I can tell you that Bill Houston is happy. Mike Garavaglia is getting input from his board, and I would like to get input from the members of this board. Good, bad?
I think it's very good. I mean, the key, and I've heard from the public, is that trying to get something, and I'll just hypothetically use like a deck approved historically, was arduous. It was just too hard. So the way this has been broken down to me seems much more logical, to the point, as you mentioned. So I'm in favor for it. The one thing, and you had mentioned this at 2 meetings ago, was that we are not abdicating our responsibilities. We're just making it, like for instance, we don't need the professionals here if they assign off.
For completeness.
Yes.
So Bill, why don't you take that if you would?
Because I think that's a big thing. Again, getting feedback from the public that I know have gone through this process, having to pay for the professionals to come and then sit there and go through everything is, where's the benefit to them? So I like the idea that we're on there doing this, so yeah.
Yeah, just to come back to a point you made, there is the application for subdivision and site plan is for either board. That can be used that way. So we don't have a separate board of adjustment, a separate planning board. And then the other application is for variance, like what I call homeowner variance. It's just, as you said, the simple deck application goes, and that's all that's needed for that. And there's a simple checklist that comes with it. The other checklist that went with those, the existing ones we're still working with, they're just onerous and unnecessary. Because, and I said this a few times in our committee meeting, the hearing isn't adjudicated through the checklist. It's simply an administrative document that puts the required information you need to deliberate the case. And that's really it. There's nothing disposed of or decided through the checklist process. And then in conjunction with the simplified and easier application process, I'd like to see just a little change in how the board handles this. Who does the completeness? Right now, we're doing like a parallel thing between myself and Liz. I don't think that's necessary, and I expressed that to the chairman a couple of times. One or the other, I don't care who it is, but because it, and again, another comment I've made a couple of times, there's no engineering perspective in the checklist, and there's no planning perspective. It is truly administrative, and that's that. We don't make any judgments on any of the information. So I'd like to see one or the other, and I would make that report, completeness report, indicate any my recommendations one way or another on any waiver requests, and declare to you in the form of a letter that this application is complete or incomplete for these reasons, and the meeting, so let's just say I determine that it's complete, well then the meeting is convened. You don't have to have separate, but at the beginning of the meeting, you do go through that, the board acknowledges that the application has been determined complete, and you take that little vote or motion or whatever you want to do and accept that and make it official, and then the hearing proceeds. And it saves the applicant, the homeowner, saves the board's time. How many times have we come out here 5 minutes and we say it's incomplete and we go home?
So So what this does, what this really means to the board members is we would see, I anticipate we would see much fewer waivers requested because the checklist is honed down and at a scale appropriate to what we need. The board would still vote on waivers, right? So that the professional would make an opinion, the determination would make a determination of completeness. I have a question on whether that can be administratively, and this is, opinion is asked for here. Can the board chair administratively accept that? And that way, and that fact is reported out to the board, and that way an attorney or applicant can bank on their hearing. Or do we want to still vote on that? But there'll be much less discussion. But waivers would always be subject to vote of the board.
Correct, always, and the way I do it in other municipalities that I work with, is I would lay out the variance requests in my letter and make those recommendations. But the hearing is usually scheduled, the applicant comes, and we go through it, and approve all the waivers, declare it complete, and we proceed. And it's a much more efficient process, I think, it's my opinion on it. And more, maybe one in 50 times, the board does not go with the waiver request and determines that it's not complete. Well, then the applicant, sorry, you have to go home tonight. And but they take that risk when they come. But when they see, if I'm not recommending a waiver, they're not coming. They're going to solve that before they come. So they know that, again, most of the time the board is going to go with the recommendation of professionals, I believe. So it doesn't really affect the process. So that's all I have. I'm happy with it. I hope the board is too, and step in that direction.
Anybody have any concerns?
I think anytime you can streamline something is great. I mean, how many times we see applicants come in here, we see the applications all the time, and we wonder, well, why didn't they, how come they forgot this or forgot that? And to streamline, I tried to look and see, like, what's a negative with this new process? And really, I really couldn't come up with one. It just seems easier and more straightforward to me to go ahead and change that process.
Agreed.
Yeah, completely agree, and I just wanna circle back to something you were just talking about, Bill. I mean, if waivers are still gonna be approved by the board, then we should indicate that right on the application, that, waivers are subject to approval of the board. So that nobody comes in here thinking that if they got through the first leg of the process, the administrative side of the process, that some approval still isn't required. So that there's no questions about that. But otherwise, I mean, really, and Dave, you've been doing this for 20 years, I've been doing it almost 20 years, and even I sometimes going through the applications, still, it's like, it's very cumbersome the way it is today. And this truly simplifies it, and I think it's gonna make it easier for, the lion's share of people that come in here are just, our fellow residents who are trying to do some of this stuff on their own. So the easier we can make it for them, I think the better.
And the other thing, I set the forms up so that they can be eventually created as fillable forms for our website. Right. Applicants can download them and they have fillable fields, and again, that simplifies things greatly as well. Plus, it makes it easier to read these things. Sometimes we get a bunch of scribble and copies of copies, so I think that, now it's gonna take some further work, as we discussed at the committee, that the ordinances have to be revised to reflect these changes, because they refer to checklists A through G, and so but that's not a big process. Somebody just has to read it, make the edits, and
Bill Houston is in charge of that committee.
yeah, that's right. That'd be a good sign for Bill.
Mark?
No, I think it'll also change the mentality of people coming in here as seeing us as an adversarial board. Okay, because many times you hear comments, well, it takes me three attempts or 4 attempts to fill out the application, then I've got to come here and talk to you. And I think if it's a friendlier form where it's understood by the public, and they see transparency in what we're trying to get to as far as the information that we need, they'll come in here a little bit less adversarial and more, okay, I've reached that first step, the second step is meeting with the board and talking about it. So I think it's a very positive thing that we're doing.
I think the only thing that I saw would be, and this is totally not, this would be a cover sheet that explains some of the terminology. So if someone is looking at this for the first time, check out.
Mr. Rizos, can you speak into?
Sure, sorry. So one would be like, for example, what is a minor application versus a major? And it'll be simple, but one line that explains it. So when they're checking through this, that saves one back and forth from Bill when they check all of it or something like that.
So good point, and agreed, it's just we didn't get to it yet. So there will be an instruction sheet.
Yeah.
That's where, Mike, your comment's gonna go in there, right? There's it's a non-fillable form, but it goes through all the stuff, so yes, that's intended.
Otherwise, it looks great. It's a huge improvement.
But I also agree with what Bart was saying about people being a little apprehensive about coming before us. So I think if we streamline anything, it will just encourage more people to do the things that they may have wanted to do, but were afraid to come in. I think it's a good thing.
So is it fair to say that this has unanimous support of the board?
Yes.
All right. So, Mike Sullivan, the board's attorney, the planning board attorney, Bill Houston have some work to do. You will see the proposed final version, including the instruction sheet. I'll ask Mike Sullivan if this board needs to take action or if it's all the governing body, but I'm gonna let them know that everybody's a thumbs up on this.
Thank you all for doing that.
Yeah, Chairman,
Okay.
thank you.
Well done.
Taking the lead,
Yeah.
yes.
So, thank you.
Bill, thank you.
Could I just make one
Helps me
suggestion?
too.
Okay, if it's gonna be online, it has to be in a PDF form,
That's right.
okay, because.
Right, it's gonna be a fillable PDF. is
Yes,
what's intended.
it's
Yeah.
twice, just so you know, someone changed their application.
Yeah, it's pretty
All
easy to
right,
break
which is
in
very-
PDF. All right, thank you all for that. Is there any other old business? Not done, you have, a motion?
I have a motion to adjourn.
Is there a second? Second. All in favor?
Yeah.
Aye.
Glad you did well.
Happy birthday.